Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. Today we're gonna make this cute little guitar illustration that can be used, for example, as an app icon or website illustration. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, it will really help my channel to grow. And if you're new to the channel and you'd like to see content like this in the future, please hit that subscribe and additionally the bell button if you want to get notified when I release something new. And if you're new to the world of 3D and Blender, and you want to become a 3D illustrator, go and check out my courses that are carefully designed to teach you beginner and intermediate skills in quickest and most effective way. For example, with the new Ultimate 3D bundle, you can go from simple cubic designs all the way to full character illustration in a matter of weeks. So if you're interested, please go check out the link in the description. Let's start with the empty Blender file, and first of all I will just select the light and the cube and delete them, so press X and delete. I will leave the camera in place, we'll make a use of that. And now let's press Shift A and let's add a circle. That will be the first object we'll need to create the guitar, and let's reduce this to something like 12 vertices. Tap into the edit mode and press 7 on the numpad for a top view. And now we'll just delete these 3 vertices up here, so press X and delete vertices. And we can select these two and press G then Y and move them slightly here. And now we'll need to create the shape of the guitar body, so there might be some tweaking. If you really want to make sure you have the shape right, you can just import the image reference and trace it of that. So I'll just try to eyeball it here. And this will be something like a Gibson Les Paul body with this curve at the top, and then we'll do the cutout at the bottom here. Now let's move this around, and when you want to close this, just press F and fill it like this. Okay, and now I will just tweak this shape a little bit better, and we can tweak this shape a little bit later, so just press A now to select all and press F to fill. Now let's rotate this a little bit and press E to extrude tiny bit, E to extrude once again, and once more just a tiny bit of extrusion, and now press I to inset like this. We are creating the support loops. And now let's go for a face select by pressing number 3, select this face and press I to inset here as well. Now if you tab out and press Ctrl 2, you are applying subdivision modifier here with 2 levels of subdivision. Now we can right click and shade smooth, and we have some nice guitar body. Of course this is curved too much, so let's tab in and we can just add slices like this with Ctrl R. I don't mind the large N-gon in the middle, it literally does nothing to how this looks in the render. So this is the basic guitar body, and now we can tab in, enable X-ray, you have that option right here as well, and just tweak the shape a little bit, move some vertices around until you really like what you see. Okay, I think this might do, so let's tab out and shift right click here to move the cursor, press Shift A and let's add a plane, tab in and scale it down. We'll create the neck of the guitar, so you can tab out, press G then X and move it here so it sits better in the middle. And here we can see how this is maybe too far, so we can go back and tweak this shape a little bit. Okay, let's select our plane, tab in, select the top vertices, press G then Y, and move it towards the front. I don't want to go too far, this will be very stylized, it will look, you know, bulky and chubby. It's just a stylized representation of what a guitar should be, so don't worry about the real proportions. The important thing is that it looks good as a whole. And now let's extrude this once more, and once more here at the end, and let's scale it up by pressing S. And now we can look from the side and bring this down tiny bit to create the tilt, something like that. Okay, now select everything by pressing A, press Alt E and extrude faces along normals. You can press S additionally for even scaling. And here we have a guitar neck, and now we'll make use of some existing geometry. So let's go for a face select, select this face right here, press Shift D, right click to release, and P and enter to separate the selection. Now if you tab out, you can see we have a new object right here, and if you select it, you can just modify it. You reused the part of the geometry You don't need to create a new plane or snap it in place or anything. You have it right there where you need it. And now we can just extrude the nut, and we can do the same for the bridge. So tab out, select the neck, tab in, and for example, I like this part here, so select this face, press Shift D to duplicate, right click to release in place, and now press P and enter to separate. Tab out, select the new object, tab in, and you can just move it away, and you have your bridge in place. Press E to extrude, and I think we'll need to make this a little bit larger, so press S then X to scale it up and bring this up as well. Okay, let's tab out now, and I will disable X-ray. You can do that here, remember, and I will select the neck and add a bevel modifier, reduce the amount, add one segment, and press Ctrl 2 to add subdivision modifier. Right click and shade smooth, and this way we'll really get that high definition, but without tweaking the object itself. This is still very simple mesh, but on the outside it's really smooth. Okay, and here I'll do the same. I will add the bevel modifier, reduce the amount, add one segment, and press Ctrl 2, or here Ctrl 1 should be enough for just one level of subdivision. Right click, shade smooth, and if you wish you can just move it down so it sits a little bit lower here. Okay, and lastly I will do the same for the bridge. Here I will add bevel modifier, reduce the amount, add segment, right click and shade smooth, and here you can play with the amount after the fact. Now select the neck again, and we'll make use of this existing geometry once more again. So select the top of the neck, Shift D, right click to release, P, enter to separate, and we have that modifier there. So let's remove subdivision and bevel modifier from this new object, tab in, and now we can press 1 for vertex select. Select these two vertices, and I want to move them towards the bridge, but I want this slope to continue, so we can press G twice to enable sliding, and now hold Alt, and that will allow you to slide this outside, and this way you are maintaining that slope, and we can push this here towards the middle of the nut. So press G twice and move it here. Okay, right now I will create 4 cuts here that will give us 6 strings, and now select everything by pressing A, press S then X, and scale it like this so the strings aren't all the way on the side here. Toggle the X-ray, go for edge select by pressing 2, select this edge right here and this one, press X and delete edges, and now you have your strings. Now tab out, right click, convert to, and choose curve, and now go to the geometry settings in the object data properties and increase the depth of the beveling here, and you have nice and quick strings. And if you want to go more into detail here, you can leave it like this, or you can tab in, press L hovering here, select the whole string and press Alt S to scale the radius down only for that one string, and you can do the same here, and maybe here you can make it a little bit larger, so basically you have some different thickness of the strings there, but I think this will be enough. Now for the tuning keys, they'll be pretty straightforward. Just shift right click here to place the cursor there, press Shift A and add a plane, tab in and press S to scale it down, press G then X and move it outside. And now we can scale this part on the outside, press A and extrude. Now of course this is a little bit too high up, so press A to select all and place it here so that the cursor sits approximately in the middle. And now press Shift A and we can add this in the existing geometry. Let's add a cylinder. Let's reduce this to 12 segments. Now scale it down, and remember we are still in the edit mode, so we are adding this new object inside this key object, and press R, Y and 90 degrees to rotate this 90 degrees. Now go for face select by pressing 3, select this face right here, press G, then X and move it outside. And there you have it, nice little tuning key, and we can of course tweak the shape a little bit if you want. And now tab out, let's add a bevel modifier, reduce the amount of course, and add one more segment. And be careful about the angle, 30 degrees will not be enough for 12 segment cylinder, so we'll need to increase this to something like 40 maybe, so just to be safe. And now the amount can be even higher. Okay, now right click, shade smooth and press Ctrl 1 to add subdivision modifier, and we are good to go. So right now just press 3 on a numpad for a side view, Alt D, and duplicate the key like this and just rotate it here and there so it's not looking the same. And of course we'll need to bring this closer. Now look from the top by pressing 7 on the numpad, select them all and press Alt D and press X to move them there. Now press S, then X and -1, that will scale them -1 on the X-axis so they will flip basically, and just move them closer here like that. And there you have a little guitar icon. Of course you can make this body larger now to match the rest of the illustration, whatever works for you. Of course there are some small details you can work on. For example, you can do some knobs here, so let's press Shift A and let's add a circle, and I will leave this at 12 vertices, so just press S to scale it down, press F to fill, extrude and scale it down like this. And again we can just add the bevel modifier, reduce the amount a little bit, add one segment, right click, shade smooth. Sometimes this is enough. If it's too jagged you can press Ctrl 1 to add one level of subdivision and you're good to go. Now you can scale it however you want, and Alt D to duplicate and create a new one. You can have them 4 or 2, depends on how detailed this illustration you want to be, but so far this is fairly low detail illustration that could serve as an icon, so I would restrain from adding too much detail here. Now let's select everything here, and with the guitar body selected as active, press Ctrl P and parent to object so we can move this as one object to the side. And now let's create one simple speaker box, you know, some kind of guitar combo. So let's reset the cursor to world origin by pressing Shift S. So press Shift A and let's add a cube, and I want the origin point to be at the bottom. So tab in, press G, then Z and 1 to place it there. Now we can extrude some speaker inside. So first of all, let's subdivide this. I will press A to select all, right click and subdivide. Now we can select the front, press I to inset. And now I will use loop tools. If you don't have this option here, just go into the preferences, add-ons and search for loop tools. Just activate it, no need to download, and you can use the circle here that will convert this shape into a circular one, scale it up and push it inside. So you should have something like this. Now again we can go ahead and add some bevel modifier, and we can increase the angle to something like 50, so we get rid of these bevels inside of the loop, reduce the amount and add some segments. Ctrl 2 for subdivision modifier, right click and shade smooth. So we have something like this in place. Now tap in, we can alt click this loop right here, press Shift D to duplicate and P to separate, and we can create our speaker now. So tab in and just start extruding, press E then X and extrude it this way. If something like this happens where you have these sharp corners, so it looks like the subdivision modifier doesn't work, you can just select all and press Shift N to recalculate normals. They probably got messed up in the original object, so additionally we can just go here and fix normals there as well, just to be safe that everything's okay. And now we can return to our circle, press F to fill it, I to inset and E to extrude inside. Now we can inset this once again, press G then X and push it down and push it back a little bit. Now inset once more to create a sharper edge, and E to extrude and scale down, and we have a little speaker box, shade smooth. And we can of course probably select this one here, push it inside and then push inside the whole thing like that. So this way you have this visual separation from the box and the speaker, and it really looks nice. Of course, when you want to make this larger, you can select both objects, go into the edit mode, toggle the X-ray, just select this and scale it up, but make sure to press Shift X so it doesn't scale on the X-axis, and you should be good to go. And of course here we can parent this object as well and push it aside. And I don't want this to be a long tutorial, so let's quickly create one node and then we'll just bash everything together. So let's press Shift A and I will add a cube once more, and now I'll press Ctrl 1 for one level of subdivision and just apply it. So go here and apply this modifier and we'll work with this shape right there. So first of all we can select all, press S then Y and scale it a little bit on the Y axis so it's a tiny bit prolonged. And now we can select this vertex right here. I pressed 1 for vertex select, and now press Ctrl Shift B to bevel it like this. And now you can press E then Z and extrude it up just like that. Let's look from the side, and of course we can press S, then Z to scale it like that, press E, then Y, and extrude it. So this will be enough for like a node shape, and now we can just shape it a little bit better. We can add some more geometry, you know, and move things around. Select everything here, press S, then Z, and make it larger, and maybe move it around tiny bit to give this some funny looks. Now tab out, press Ctrl 2, and of course we can press Ctrl R to add some additional loops and to give this more interesting shape, just like that. Maybe we can rotate this a little bit, make it larger, and now add that loop. Right click, shade smooth, and you have a node that you can use in your illustration. Now let's bash everything together. So I'll select the box, press Alt G to reset it on the point 0, 0, and move some nodes closer to it, something like this, and maybe duplicate them around and scale, rotate tiny bit, just like that. And now let's move the guitar closer, press R, Y to rotate it towards the camera, like this, and just find some nice place. Let's press 0 on the numpad to see from the camera. Let's select the camera, press G then Z to move it up, and G then Z twice to move it back out. And now we can start playing with the objects placement, something that looks interesting. Let's change the output settings, and in the resolution I want to have something like 1600 to 1200, and again we can move the camera around, something like that. Maybe make the guitar smaller and move these notes higher. This looks maybe nice around that bend. It gives a nice little composition. Maybe rotate this a little bit. Okay, I really like this. So let's press Shift A and let's add a plane. This will serve as our background, and select this far edge, press E and extrude it. And now we can just bevel this, add more segments with the mouse wheel, tab out and press R, then Z to rotate it in place, right click and shade smooth. So we have a little infinite background there in place. And now we can go to the material preview, and let's set up some ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflections. And with the background selected, let's create a new material, and let's find some like a blue violet tone like that, and the box might look nice with orange color. I think it's a nice combination with the violet tone. That's the first thing. And the second thing, if you know something about guitars and amps, you might know why I picked orange color here. So let's select the speaker and let's bring this down. We'll leave it black just like that. And now for the guitar, I want to probably have it black as well. Just duplicate the material and maybe reduce the roughness here a little bit, so it's a bit glossy, just like that. And we can apply the same material to those notes, so they're glossy. Now let's pick some nice light brown color for the neck, something a maple neck should look like. And now for the hardware, I think I'll create the metallic material, so let's bring this all the way up. And let's do the same material for the strings and for the tuning keys, and we can reduce the roughness tiny bit, not too much. I don't want this to be like a mirror glossy or chrome. It would not play very well with the illustration and the lighting scheme. And let's pick the orange material here as well, and I'll add a little bit of roughness to the material. So I really like this composition. This really could work as an icon. So let's press Shift A and let's add some lights. I will use the area light as first, increase the size tiny bit, move it up, and try something like 500, and let's switch this to scene lights and scene world. But of course I will need to see this in cycles, so let's press Ctrl B to limit the rendering for the camera. Go to the render settings and switch to cycles. I will enable GPU with some denoising, and I'll reduce max samples to something like 512, but that doesn't matter right now, and I will switch to rendered. Okay, so we have some light in the scene, but this looks a little bit too dull. The light is a little bit too sharp. So what we can do is to hold period, enable 3D cursor rotation, and now rotate this area light so it shines from the side, and now press R then Z to move it to front and back so we can find some better angle here. Something like this would look nice. Now let's press Shift A and let's add another area light. Press G then Z, move it up. Press R, X twice to bring this down and rotate to the side. And I want to go to the light settings and switch the shape to rectangle and just raise it on the Y-axis. So it's a tall, thin light. And let's increase the strength to something like 250. And now you will see you can create these nice tall reflections with the light like this. Okay, maybe not so much, maybe 150 would be enough. And now let's press Shift A and I will add a point light and just move it back behind the box like this. And let's try something like 500 here and move it up, maybe even stronger, something like 1500 should be nice, and that will create this nice backlight and shadow, and we can play with the color of the light so we can introduce some gradients here. Of course, you can go to the world settings and play with the background color and intensity to give this some ambience like this. And of course, in the end, you can go to the color management, switch look to something like medium high contrast, and play with the exposure if your lighting setup is too dark or something. So that's for today's illustration. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave that like, it will really help me. And again, if you're new to the channel and you want to see more, please hit that subscribe. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.